Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wednesdays with Ra. Today is episode 14. Oh, look, it says episode 13, but today is actually episode 14. I'll get that changed. Well done, Temple. Well done. All right, so today is episode 14, and today on Wednesdays with Ra, we're going to focus on the introspection of weaving your own fate. And with being number 14, 14 is all about personal freedom, independence, and self-determination and curiousness. So it actually goes really well together. And all of these episodes are always based off things that Maggie and I have been, concepts that Maggie and I have been working with within the last week or 2 weeks, or things that we know have been coming up a lot for everybody around. So we want to touch on them. And then also sometimes Ra just says, this is what we're talking about. And we're like, okay, that's what we're talking about.
He always has a hand in it.
Always. So let me just double check here. Yep, we're good to go. So the first thing we thought we would talk about is that we know that a lot of you are feeling like you're changing. You're at this point where you can see this transformation happening, but there's something in between. And Maggie coined it last night like a minefield. So most of you are feeling this, where you're feeling the change, but you're having to finish walking through this minefield to complete this transformation. And so this is kind of what we wanted to talk about today, how you can do this in a way with good introspection so you can weave your own fate the way you want to. And I think a lot of times with the teachings that the mainstream give everybody about being, how should we say this? Always thinking positive and always all this stuff. We're going to discuss this just a little bit, but I thought what we would do first is we would talk about the experiences of how Maggie and I use introspection to move ahead on a daily basis with our work as well as in our lives. And while we're discussing this, if you guys are joining, welcome, and feel free to discuss with us, because it's always more fun when you guys have questions or you want to comment on things. So please feel free to do that. And is there anything you wanted to say, Maggie, before we get started?
I think that you started it very eloquently. I'm thinking of personally where I would like to start to describe my experience of going through this this minefield right now. Temple and I worked with a client yesterday, and he very eloquently described it, feeling like he was saying, I feel like something really, really good is just on the horizon, but it's not quite here yet. And we were helping him explore some of the things that were between that point and where he is now. And I think that that's coming up for a lot of people right now. You can see the light on the horizon. It's right there, but for some reason you're not quite there yet. It's not quite here yet. And I think a lot of people at this time are disentangling a lot of personal issues, things that were really, really hard to look at that are now coming up for us to look at, for us to finally get to this finish line or this new chapter. It's more like a new chapter than it is a finish line. And I know that we're always saying, it feels like we're almost there. It feels like another wave is coming, but we're getting closer. But it does feel really, really like the final squeeze right now. And I think what is coming with that is it's not so much external things. It's us facing ourselves and looking at ourselves and seeing how we can show up more authentically to ourselves and with ourselves so that we can be aligned to reach this place of light that I know we all feel is so close to us right now.
And I think the putting it in like terms of chapters is really good, because especially with me working on this book, and for those of you who don't know, I'm working on a book. It's finished, but now Maggie and I are in the process of the editing phase. And life is kind of like a book, because it's these ends of these chapters and then beginning a new chapter. And so it's kind of this never ending ups and downs and startings and endings. But I think to look at it as your own book is really important to do. And how do you want to write your own book? How do you, if you wrote your own book, what would you want it to say about your life? And I think that's really important to look at as well. I'm just going to put it in the chat here what today's topic is.
Temple's book, by the way, I started reading it and it is amazing. And her experiences are amazing. I thought that I knew Temple really, really well. And I thought that I knew about all of the wonderful, magical, wild things that have happened in her life. And I'm like 10 pages in and it's already mind-blowing. So when it does come out, you guys are going to be blown away to read it.
I'm so glad that you're enjoying it. Today's topic is the introspection of weaving your own fate. So once we get a little bit further in the process of editing and we can talk about the book, I'm super excited about it. It's taken me 3 years to write so far, and it's definitely, I think, part of the introspection of weaving your own fate, because for me personally, I always knew I just always knew that I was going to at some point write a book or write many books. And so part of it was like, because I thought about it and I just knew it, I was weaving my own fate to do it at some point. But in doing it, in collecting everything to write the book, and just so everybody's clear on like what the book is about, the book is about my experiences, but it's just a specific section of experiences dealing with the human soul and how there's more than just one soul in a body. It's more complicated than that. And so I kind of go through the book of discussing my experiences and how I've learned it. And you're going to get to know a lot of interesting things about me that I've never talked about. Plus, there's stuff about Ramses in there, and I don't talk about Ramses personally on the internet. So there's a lot of interesting things, but writing it has really helped me step back and to see things, to see my life as one thing leading up to the next thing, leading up to the next thing, leading up to the next thing. And when you can do that, when you can look at your life and look at the events in it and put them together, it gives you this greater understanding of why these things happen to you and what you're here to do and how you can use those experiences in your life to not only boost your confidence, but to help other people as well. And so we're talking about weaving your own fate, and I think it kind of fits in perfectly with it, because even writing it has allowed me to view different experiences in my life in a different way, in which I didn't want to look at before. I didn't want to look at it that way before, or I wasn't prepared to look at it that way before. And I think this is probably part of walking through the minefield, when you have experiences or thought processes or things that come at you, but you're not ready to look at it, or you don't want to. You can look at it, but you're only looking at it through a very tiny lens versus looking at the bigger picture of it. And so when you can open up that lens and look at the bigger picture of it, maybe it's stuff you don't want to see, but it's things that are going to help you understand and have greater knowledge of not only yourself and your inner workings, but where you're going on your path. If we ignore these things and we don't look at them, that's one way to just even stop weaving your own fate and to just allow other people to run your life. And so, do you have anything you want to add to that, Maggie, of your own experiences along the way?
Well, talking about having to face things that are difficult to face and we've tended to turn our eyes from because certain things make us uncomfortable and we don't want to look at them, whether it be about ourselves personally or about things that we have to deal with in our own personal experiences. I've been dealing with that a lot lately, as Temple knows, because I call her crying all the time.
That's what professional criers do, like.
But for me, I found myself in a position in my life where I am working with people in a generally public setting. I'm channeling on this platform and another platform publicly. And for me, that is never something that I imagined myself doing. Throughout my childhood, I got voted quietest, shyest, most introverted person in class for as long as I remember. So to have been told in this portion of my life that I'm going to be someone who is going to channel and who's going to work with others in a public setting, it was the most terrifying thing in the world to me. However, the spirit who told me that was correct, because my path lined up in such a way where these opportunities fell in my lap, and I felt like I had messages and energy that were meant to be shared with people. And at the beginning, I was all right with it. I would get nervous, but I could overcome that nervousness with a sense of service and a sense of duty to do my mission and to spread the energy and the messages how I knew the people upstairs were counting on me to do. But this last month, I almost quit. It was so paralyzing. I would wake up every morning. I couldn't get out of bed because I would have an anxiety attack. As soon as I woke up, I would wake up with an anxiety attack, and I would start sobbing in bed because I had failed to rationalize this side of myself who didn't feel comfortable with herself and who felt shy and introverted and felt like she really wasn't that great. And rationalizing that or making sense of that, being in the role that I was, the gap got too great and I couldn't ignore it anymore. And I really, really had to look at myself and really look at my fears and look at why I was scared to speak to people, why I was scared to put my voice out there, why I felt like deep down on the inside, I realized why I felt like I wasn't good enough to be someone who helped other people or who other people wanted to listen to. So it's been a real reckoning with me for at least the last 6 weeks to look at myself and look at those fears and look at that old version of myself and come to peace with her and kind of help her to understand that the person I am today is not this person who has to be scared anymore. It's not this version of my young self. We've come a long way, me and my younger self. And I had to kind of go back and grab her by the hand and bring her to this current now with me, because she was holding a lot of fears and a lot of things that I didn't want to look at about myself, because in my younger years, I had been shy, I had been bullied, I had been told all of these things that were causing all of these anxiety, this narrative going around in my head that I wasn't good enough, that my voice doesn't matter, blah, 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 blah. So it's been really deep-seated stuff that I've not wanted to look at about myself because it was painful, that I've been kind of forced to this last month, because now it was coming up as extreme anxiety. My guides, the universe, would not allow me to ignore these unhealed things anymore. And for those of you who are going through similar struggles where the emotions seem really high and things seem really unbearable, I hope that we can offer some energy, or if you have any experiences you want to share or any advice that you would like, we will do our best to help you.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where this is the minefield. The minefield and the introspection go hand in hand, because you're at this place now where there's stuff in the past you've been able to kind of push off, right? And you can, whether you're using the think positive approach or, you're not ready to deal with it, you've been able to push it off. But this is what the minefield is. And Maggie explained it really well. It's these things that really, really need to be, they're deep-seated, but they have to come to the surface and you have to look at them. You have to look at them with clarity. You have to be objective and you have to work on removing the fear. And that is the key to move ahead to this next chapter. And this is like shadow work. This isn't always fun, although it is kind of fun to me when you learn about new aspects and things that you thought you were so terrified about. But then when it all comes together and you're like, oh, it wasn't as bad as I thought. I was pushing it off and I had this fear. Hey, Blue Star 44. I'm glad you guys are joining us. Glad you're joining us. But I was pushing these things off, and because I was pushing them off with fear, it builds into something that's so much bigger than what the initial fear was. It really starts to hold you back. And so this is what we want to have you guys look at today, the real introspection of your fate. Now, we always say you're in charge, you have free will, and this is completely true. But the best way to move forward to this next chapter is to start realizing that it's not always about thinking positive. It's not always about assuming nothing bad can happen to you. It's not always about living in this bubblegum world that a lot of light workers want to create, because creating a world like that is completely ignoring the purpose of why we're here. We're here to raise the vibration, but just pretending everything is good to go and not looking at where the problems lie, you're not really fixing anything. The reason we're here now is because we're here to fix things. We're here to not ignore the things that are wrong. We're here to work on these things, and we're here to face them. And in doing that and working through them and going through those caves and coming out the other end with the light torch in our hand, that's how we raise our vibration. That's how we raise our wisdom, our knowledge, and that's how we do it for the collective and for the earth. It's not about, I'm going to say it again, it's not about thinking positive all the time. Now, is it good to think positive? It is. It's good to have the glass half full. But there's certain things like thinking positively about, like, I don't know. Can you think of something that's like a general think positively? Like, you're going to have a good day. That's a good think positively.
Yes, but however, if you are a person who is in a relationship where your partner doesn't treat you well, or you're not treated to the standards where you would like, and it's causing you sadness or anger or despair, you can't out positive thinking certain realities in your life or about yourself. It doesn't. I wish that it could work that way, but it, unfortunately, no amount of positive thinking is going to move you past certain things. It takes inner work to do some of these things.
Right. And sometimes it takes tough decisions, and this is why some people don't want to face these tough decisions, because they're hard. But really, that's the only way forward. We can't continue going forward, especially now where we are in this timeline of the planet. We can't continue going forward with these blinders on. And so this is the part of weaving your own fate. Up until now, you were able to kind of get a grip on things through all these positive teachings of, think positive. If you constantly work to be in a high vibration, you're going to be in that high vibration. Like, these are all wonderful things, but we have to keep building onto this. Now that you kind of have a foundation of why it's good to be positive, use that be positive, but work through your things that are coming up. And I'm going to talk about the Super Soldier program for just a second, because this has come up numerous times with many different clients that Maggie and I have had. When they talk about, a lot of them actually don't even know that they're in the program, or some of them think something is weird, but they're not really sure. And then when we discuss what is going on, our clients will say something like, well, I just ignored that. Like, there was something in me that automatically made me block it out. And this is how they work. So there's things in your life that are blocks are purposely put in your energy fields, hoping that you won't see it, or hoping that it can block you away from realizing what's going on, so you don't do the work, so you don't get ahead. And once we're able to take those blinders off and work through those blocks and push through no matter what. Like, I remember the very first time I kept having these thoughts of, something's not right. Something like in my general life, I think I might be involved in some of these weird programs. But every time I would try to watch something on it or get more information, it was block after block after block. And I had to purposely plow through those blocks. And let me tell you, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy at all. But look what happened, because I did that, because Ramsey's word is persevered, because I persevered through that, even when it was painful and even when it was sad and even when I didn't think I could go any further. Now I've come on the other side and I'm able to know things about the programs, understand things about the programs, and know if people are in these programs and help explain to them what they're experiencing and put pieces together and help get them out. And that would have never happened had I kept the fear that was placed in me about learning about these programs or actually looking at it. Like a lot of times, those who are involved in the programs don't even want to look at anything that has to do with secret government, blah, blah, blah. It's just innately there. So this is an example of how it's hard, it's tough. There were days when I was going through this where I was thinking, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to be one of those people that mysteriously goes missing, or I'm going to be one of those people that mysteriously dies and they're just going to call it like a heart attack or something like that. But you know what? Like I made it through all those blocks. I made it through all the fear. And I was able to do it in an objective way that really helped me weave my own fate. So that's my wish for you guys, not that you're in programs. I don't want you to be in programs, but I want you to be objective about the energies in your world, the things that are happening to you. And I want you to look at them with an objective eye to try to remove the fear and see how you can work through them to better yourself, to better your own fate, to better your own life path. So you're not stuck and have that one thing like 20, 30 years later be the thing that is stopping you from having this amazing experience or everything that you want in life.
That was really well said. I think that Temple has been doing an amazing job in helping people to get out of these kind of programs. I've seen her work. I've seen her in action. She's amazing. And because she was able to push through all of those difficulties in extracting herself, now she's able to help so many people. She's able to put a hand down and help pull people out who might have not had somewhere to reach before. And all in that sense, all of the hard work was worth it. I mean, personally for her, it was worth it. But in the sense of her being able to help all of these people, I've seen how beautiful it is. I've seen how life-changing it is. And your hard work it's amazing. And it's the same for the rest of you. I mean, for me, it's nowhere near as dire or important a thing, but I always go back.
I wouldn't say that though, because everybody's world is so different. Like somebody who hasn't experienced that super soldier stuff or the secret space program would have no concept. Do you know what I mean? So like, it's hard to compare apples to oranges in your own world. So stuff that's happening for you could be as equally distressing or as equally tough because it's yours.
That is a good point to make. I should not say things like that because all of our experiences are equally as valid. Everything that we're going through that is a difficulty is no greater or less than anyone else's difficulty. Everything is valid and everyone deserves to be understood and to be supported through whatever it is they're going through. Thank you for that. I do it to myself. I tell other people not to do it and then I do it to
I know, but that's why we're here. Like Maggie and I are constantly helping each other with these things because we slip and fall too. You know, we're not perfect. We're not perfect. And we're constantly working on ourselves as well. So it's really important for you guys to look within. I'm wondering, for those of you who are listening now or listening in the future, like what are you currently looking within? Like, how are you doing? Is there something that you want to bring up and talk about? Is there something you want to get opinions on, or is there a question you have? Because remember, this is also your time. Like, we're here. If you guys have questions, we can have our people help us with answers, and we can give you our own experiences. And we really want to help you guys through this minefield so you can get to this new chapter of your book. Because right now it's all about testing skills, your willpower, again, your steadfastness. That's a Ramsey's word. And it's about challenging yourself and your abilities to keep pushing forward, to know that you can no longer pretend that there's things that you can just glance over in your life or glance over within yourself, that those things have to get worked on and have to come up. And we want to help you guys do that. So,
and it's so individual for everyone right now. One person's challenge is going to look so different from another person's, and what you're being asked to face is going to be really different from what I am being asked to face right now, or Temple is being asked to face right now, because we're all individual. We all have different pasts and different experiences that we're working through, and different fears that we're working through to kind of start off on these new chapters. That it's difficult to speak about it in a broad way because it looks so different for everyone. The main theme is the theme of this feeling squeezed, this feeling pressured, this feeling like there's something that I just can't ignore anymore. It's really pushing up on me. But again, it's so different for everyone. So if you have you're going through anything like this, if you would like any energies or we can channel people to about it. But it's difficult to just say, general things about it because it's just so different right now.
It's also personable to your own progress in your own path. And where we come together on these paths is that we recognize there's more than what society wants us to see. Everybody watching this and listening to this recognizes that things are not always what they appear. And now it's time for us to take our sovereignty back. And now it's time for us to really be those beautiful light beings, beautiful creator beings that we all are, and to create something out of nothing, to create what we want our own path to be. And that's really the beauty of free will down here. I mean, you can sign up for all of this stuff upstairs, but once you get down here, it's really up to you how you want to maneuver through it, where you want to place it in your field or on your path. Do you even want to do it? Maybe you've changed your mind. They can't stop you from changing your mind. I hope you guys don't change your mind on your missions, but they can't stop you. Even though you may have set up a time frame to get something done upstairs, down here, it's all up to you. It's all up to you. And so I'm just trying to see if anybody else wants to say anything. Or I'm feeling so many beings around that, like, sometimes it's just the feminine collectives, but tonight it just seems like everyone, very broadly, everyone.
I feel that too. I feel like they're saying, we understand how tired everybody is by this point, especially if you're in the Northern Hemisphere and summer is ending. We know how chaotic this summer has been and how pushed and pulled and slammed around everyone has been by all the energies. So if you're just tired, it's okay to just rest now too. You don't have to face all of these things head on in this moment. You want to be well rested. And first and foremost, you want to stop beating yourself up over not getting as much done as you feel like you need to at this time, if that's how you're feeling. All of us need like a a week-long nap at this point from what we've gone through this summer. And that's okay. You know, that rest is going to give us what we need, not only in terms of self-care and letting the body know that we care for it. So it's safe to wake up recharged and ready and know that it's not going to be pushed to the limit. Give your body that grace of allowing yourself to rest. And then once you do that, it's easier to look at these things. If you've been run ragged, if you are exhausted, now is not the time to take a hard look at yourself and see what work there is to do. If you're exhausted, you need to rest now. And what we're saying applies, but it applies given that you are taking good care of yourself and taking good care of your body and taking good care of your energy. Don't be flogging yourself over these things. You know, this is a process that is not easy. It's difficult for a lot of us right now, but it's not self-punishment. It's something that should be done, you know, with joy for the next step. Even if you're crying, even if you're angry, joy through the tears or joy through the anger, knowing that you're working towards something higher for yourself and not that, oh, I have to catch up, I have to catch up, I have to catch up. Please don't think that way about anything that you're going through, because you have all the time in the world, and putting yourself first is the first thing to do.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. Every single episode that we put out, don't feel like you have homework every other Wednesday that you have to do. Like, if you want to do that, that's amazing. And, you know, that's wonderful, but also put it in your arsenal for later. Like, when you're ready to do it, that's when you work on it, you know? We have a question from Blue Star 44, and ever since this question was asked, maybe even before, because before I noticed it, Anubis is here like really, really strong right now, which is so weird because we just got that message that we need to talk to him. So, but Blue Star 44 says, what's been going on with the masculine?
Oh, we've been talking about this a lot lately, with some masculines in our own life, some powerful masculines that we know in our own life. And honestly, I don't know exactly what's going on with the masculine right now. I think many of our masculine collective is going through a vulnerable moment right now. I think many masculines feel the weight of the world on their shoulders right now. And I think I don't want to say they're going to break, but I think for the masculine energy, this is a bit of a breaking point at this time for having to be the strong one all the time. I think that the pressure of that is becoming so heavy. And many masculines are looking to feminines right now for nurturing, for support, because this weight on their shoulders is becoming too much to bear for many of them. If you are a masculine out there, my love and my heart goes out to you, because as much as we talk about feminine energies and the feminine struggle and the rising feminine, the masculine has their whole own set of struggles that I have so much respect for all of you masculines out there for dealing with and going through, because they don't make it easy for you by any means either. And I know that Temple and I have been doing a lot of work together to send our love to the masculine collective, because we have been feeling this pressure or this weight on their shoulders, and we have been trying to send out the love and nurturing from a divine feminine standpoint to kind of lift them up, because that's what we're here to do for each other. The feminine is here to support the masculine in the energy of nurturing when they need it. And I think right now many masculines out there really need it. And the masculine collective in general is aching a little bit for this in my reading of things.
Yeah, I would have to say you're right on. And maybe you guys out there have noticed this too, but it seems like because everything has to be balanced in its own way, with the feminine rising, the masculine is now being asked to dig up some of these mother woundings that they have, some of these childhood woundings that they have related to the divine feminine, or related to how this society expects them to be. And because this is on the surface now and it's so raw, at least in my experience, and Maggie and I have experienced this too, it seems like the divine masculine is definitely needing some extra TLC from the divine feminine, and to let the masculine know that while they're showing more emotions and they're letting their walls down, that's perfectly okay. Like we need to be there to support them in this, because by not supporting them in this, we're furthering that reversal of what society deems a masculine need to be. And I think, at least from what I've been experiencing and seeing, is that there's a lot more softer bits coming out from the masculine, but I think for the feminine, it's sometimes it can even be a little disturbing. Maybe that's not the right word, or confusing is probably a better word, because all of a sudden you have these men who have been so strong and they put everything aside to like do what they need to do. And all of a sudden they come to you and they're like, I just need a hug. And we're like, what's going on? Like, so I'm really happy to see some of these walls coming down and some of the communication opening up, because once we can get the communication to open up between the divine feminine and the divine masculine in a way that serves both equally, so one is not trying to push ahead of the other one, that's when we can make real change. And I think this is just the pinpoint of seeing more of that happening. And so if there's things that I know in my experiences, just doing more things together. Like we really enjoy cooking and baking. And so doing those things together in a way where everything is equal, like one person is doing one thing, the other person is doing another thing, and you're coming together to build this beautiful like brioche loaf, things like that. It's really nice to see when the masculine can let down his really harsh side and like enjoy some of the more feminine aspects that he has probably had so far hidden that are a little foreign to him. So at this point, he's probably trying to understand a bit more about what's coming up. And they may not even ask for a hug, but maybe as the divine feminine, you can see that they need a hug. And that would mean the world to them, that you would see this in them without them having to ask. So it's really about as one changes, the other has to change. And so we both the divine feminine and the divine masculine at this point need to be there for one another in a way in which really hasn't been done before, in a very, see, this is Maggie's world, like in a very soft understanding. I don't know. Do you want to come up with the words for it? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I do know what you're saying, and I've noticed with my masculine, my partner, men won't often. Well, I don't want to say this. I sound like I am stereotyping. I am not stereotyping. In general, you'll see that men won't. Most men who are conditioned by our society won't come and say, I need a hug. I'm feeling crappy and I'm feeling insecure in myself. Can you please give me a hug? They're not conditioned to say those kind of things. They're conditioned to believe that it's weak to express your feeling. And you don't even have to get them to open up. You don't even have to say, well, tell me how you're feeling, because I think a lot of masculines aren't comfortable with that sometimes. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. They weren't raised to be comfortable with it. What I like to do is to go in my fiance, my husband, we've been together for so long, it wobbles between fiance and husband because I don't really care about official marriage
Titles. Yeah, me
titles. But I'll just go in and give him a hug if I can tell that he's having a difficult day, and I'll say, how you feel is important to me, and I want you to feel happy today. And that takes the onus off of him to open up and be vulnerable, which might be difficult for him, but it creates that space where he feels like he can be open and vulnerable and feeling with me. And I'm not judging him. He's receiving that energy without having to make himself vulnerable in a way that he might feel uncomfortable with currently. And that's fine. But if we can show our support in this way and show that they are safe and they are nurtured in our presence, I think that is is it's doing a lot right now.
I definitely agree. That was a great question. Are there any other questions that you guys have that we can talk about, or any beings that you have questions for? I mean, usually this is Wednesdays with Ra. Ra is going to come in and talk, but he said he wanted to come in before we did the channeling and the codes. So I'm just looking over my notes really quick. I mean, maybe it's going to be a short one tonight, and that's perfectly okay too. We don't always have to go 2 hours. So I should check in to see if Anubis wants to say anything. I feel like he's constantly putting this analogy of in order to bloom, in order to blossom, there's got to be this death, right? There's got to be this letting go, this realization, this letting go, and this healing to be reborn. But I should check in with him and just see if there's actually something specific he wants to say. So
that's a great message, though, for this time.
Yeah,
this idea of death and rebirth, it very much feels like that.
Mm-hmm. And like the thing about Anubis is Anubis and I are really, really good friends, and we chat often. And the one thing he is always reminding others about is that you don't have to feel sad about the death process, in whatever terms that means, whether it's a new leaf for you and you're starting a new journey, because the pieces that need to be saved, the pieces that are of value, the pieces that you're never casting everything away. Just because you're starting anew doesn't mean that everything that you have to drop everything or pretend those things don't exist. Like Anubis is the one who always cares for them and keeps them safe, and when you're ready to have them back. And through all of my introspection, he's always telling me that. He's like, but don't worry, I have this piece of you and you're not losing it. You're just setting it here for a minute while you look at all these other pieces, and it's safe right here. And when you want it back and you're ready to accept it back, I have it for you. So
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And as you were saying that, there is this, for some of us, this feeling of mourning, this feeling of mourning our past selves, mourning what our past selves may have gone through, mourning becoming somebody new, and maybe feeling uncomfortable with blossoming into that new person and leaving who you thought you were behind. They're saying to me now, that is beautiful and that is fine. If you need to cry for these things, if you need to mourn for these things, that is a way of honoring yourself and who you used to be and the energies of your past and who you are becoming. It's a beautiful process. So if any of you feel that you're in the process of mourning right now, they, through me, are giving you permission that is all right. That is all right to shed tears over these things, because tears aren't a bad thing. They're a beautiful thing. So if you guys are experiencing that right now, I don't even know where that came from, because I didn't plan to talk about that at all. But
I think they have other plans, because Anubis is talking to me now, and he's like, you must tell them that what they were and what they're becoming may seem like two separate beings or two separate people, but you cannot have one without the other. And this is the process of, he's so funny. He's like showing me, like with the teacher's pointer, right? He's like, and this is where you start in like the Egyptian afterlife. This is where you're going over here. And there's a reason that when you end in a chapter of a book and you begin a new chapter, the death and the life, you go through this. He's like, well, you guys are calling it a minefield, but we call it the book of the dead, like the book of the dead, how you go through all these little challenges and all these little bits and pieces where you have to meet with people. You have to know these magical incantations. You have to actually look at yourself with what you did in your life. And he's like, the death process is all about introspection. And he said, even when in modern society, we talk about the past life review, he's like, that's the Egyptian Book of the Dead introspection, because you're sitting there and you're really looking at the whole picture and you're able to see it for what it is now. You're able to see that you don't have to fear anything because it's already done and over with. You're watching it on a screen. You're able to finally be objective. And when in ancient Egypt, when they were going through the Book of the Dead and going through all these different sections, it's the same thing. They're being asked to look at themselves, what their thought processes were, what deeds they did, how pure was their heart. And so it's going to either help them or hurt them when they decide whether they weigh the heart against the feather of truth. And he said, this is exactly where a lot of people are right now. Sometimes it's hard to go through that transformation, but to know that there's really no beginning and no ending, and that the person that you were in this last chapter, as you call it, the person that you were in this last chapter is still a part of the person in this new chapter, because this person got this person here. So it's equally as important. So you're not losing anything. You're gaining knowledge and wisdom that is going to help you throughout your processes and your rebirth into a brand new you. That's what he's saying.
Thank you, Anubis. And thank you for bringing that through. That was a gorgeous message.
That was amazing. I never would have thought about it in that way. So he wanted to come through and speak, but I was like, you can just talk and I'll just say what you're saying. So is there anyone on your side that wants to come through? And it seems like they're really caught on this whole like death and life thing today, which I wasn't expecting.
It does seem like that. And from my side with my people, it's interesting that we pulled that card earlier, that Sophia card, because I feel like maybe that's the energy that I'm feeling, this Sophia energy. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, this is the card we pulled earlier. Oh, that makes sense, Maggie. That makes perfect sense. Because, go ahead and talk. I'm going to look it up one more time.
No, I don't think anyone's here with that many messages. I think I have a lot more of them. I don't know if I have more, but I have a lot of the feminine on this side. I feel the grandmothers here. They just keep conveying to me, in between death and rebirth, there is a need for rest, like I've been talking about. I'm not going to repeat myself because they've already said that. So a lot of people are in this place where they are evaluating things and they are resting and they are trying to figure out the best way to tackle things going forward, to embody the new vision of their self for the new chapter. So what they're saying to me from my side is that they would like to give through some energy when we do the codes to help people rest, rejuvenate, center, have clear sight for the path forward. But they don't want to give too much more instruction now, because they're like, you have been instructing them all summer long.
I mean, I can see where this is like the culmination of the work from the summer. And you and I have even felt that. Like,
oh yeah,
we're at this point now where we're finished with all of this. We just have this little bit to go here, the introspection of everything that we've recently been through, so we can rest and then be reborn. It totally makes sense to me. And the Sophia thing, I was looking it up. So she was the one who gave the knowing, the wisdom of knowing to everyone. At least that's what the mythos says, the wisdom of knowing. And I don't know much about her. It would be very interesting to learn more about her. Yeah. So, all right. Well, maybe if Rob wants to come through, we can give his message and we can give the codes and we'll call it an early night tonight.
I don't think it's going to be Ra. I think it's going to be Sophia.
Okay.
I felt Ra at the beginning of this, and now I feel him. He's kind of stepped back a bit, and I feel this Sophia energy toward the front. Ra is like, my fire might be a bit too strong for the group tonight. So I mean, he has come in swinging the last couple of days. So
Yeah, he really, really has. So I can see that. But if Sophia is there, that would be wonderful.
I think her message will be short, but maybe she'll say a little bit of something. We'll give out the energies, and if people don't have anything else that they're feeling moved to talk about tonight, then we'll call it a short night, I guess.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Greetings, my children. I have never spoken through this channel. I come in a nurturing aspect for you this evening. My name is Sophia. I am a feminine energy, and that is all you need to know about me for this time. For it is my energy and my energy intermingling and interacting with yours that I am most concerned about this evening. There has been quite a bit of talk of minefields, life, death, rebirth, all of these groundbreaking, life-changing, energy-moving terms being spoken. And these things are very much happening for all of you right now. However, I think sometimes as humans, you are interested in the action of these things, the action to move forward, the action to die from an old life, the action of being reborn into a new chapter where you will soar to new heights, flying in the wind, flying to the sun. Not enough is said, in my opinion, about the non-action between the action. Yes, many of you are in minefields and walking through this place of the dead, or however it was Anubis put it. But my dear children, not all of this requires action, facing and fighting battles. So much of this work can be resolved for you if you simply observe. Observe the things that have been difficult for you to face. Observe those parts of yourself that you often find yourself turning the eyes from, putting blinders up against. Oftentimes, my children, merely looking these things in their eyes and loving them for what they are does so much to clear and balance energy for you. So I am here to tell you that yes, excuse me, this channel's nose is runny. Yes, you are all here to be great humans of action. You are all here to enact great things in the world. But when it comes to the end of trying times like this, it is not always action that is needed. It is observation, reflection, looking at these things with loving eyes and seeing when you look long enough that there is love looking back at you, that you can make peace with these things simply by holding space, giving them presence, giving them your loving energy. And this is what I am here to share with you today. the courage to look these things in the eye, the courage to love them. And when the time comes, in some cases, the courage to move bravely past them into the unknown, into the beautiful light of the new chapters that are awaiting all of you. I will send my energy with light language now. Kali ali le ali le ali. Uyusulu kalikasha. Lehile le le shata. Lokoshiki saile. Moloko shutuki takashatu maasha telekana. Motoko shikete. Monosukushati. Lahasa tuhu saisata. Moyina kisa santa. Luku shutu shutu kushu. Le isha tukushati la ashata. Monia yasa. Titi kishati mihishate leheshate. Lahata kushiti. Muya ashatu yahala sihishata yanda satiki muyoso kishana yasata la yeso ye yasutuki mayundu kashati yahata sumayandati yanda suheatati. Namaste, my children.
Thank you so much for your wonderful message.
You are welcome. Do you have any messages or energies to send out as well? Temple, I give the floor to you now.
I do, thank you. Hete sanale e kobuhoto kolosho. Nia li li a la 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 lo lo. Li 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 la la. Loko no lo li ala li ala. La asa tatiana shakotolo. Li hikinenia poto. Mali ala la ala la le ala la le ala la le ala le ala. Lo no 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 ni ala ita. Dublia to kocho. Kono lo hoso tuto. Niki sheta. Bulu tunumuku, bihata, niamama lea poshukumu, misitniata, nihinineke, tala apuhushumu, mahaki inimishit, niala ikipehete, kumolo poshonaya, mahale iskanapiti. Namaste. That was really soft and sweet.
Yes, I've never channeled her before, but that was a good message because at least I was missing that part of stillness.
Me too.
I'm glad she reminded us of that.
Because I was thinking about this, like, how did we miss it? But then I was thinking to myself, I think this is what happened. I assumed that in order to get to these places of understanding, you have to look at it, and the looking at it is the stillness. But it was never really said in the way she said it. And I think that the way she said it was really important because we don't take enough time to look at things. Do you know what I mean? Like, we just don't. As a society, we're just rush. And this has been one of the benefits, going back to the beginning, this has been one of the benefits of having to compile life stories and such in my own physical book, because it gave me that downtime, that quiet time of like being able to see the bigger picture of things and have a wider perspective and a wider objective to see how things were laid out in that moment. You don't understand why, but then it becomes clear to move on to your next phase. So that was really beautiful.
And I think on your point as well, but another aspect of that, I think for myself, I can't speak for anyone else, but I don't spend a lot of time, and maybe some people don't spend a lot of time looking at things that are difficult to look at, because it's harder to sit there and look at things sometimes than it is to do something about it. At least when you're doing something, you can be distracted and you don't have to give your full attention in that way to this thing that might make you uncomfortable. But really looking at something that is hard for you personally to look at, that's a courageous thing to do. Simply being in stillness and acknowledging something that's there that's hard to acknowledge. That I can see why she brought that up, because I can see in myself how I do have a difficult time doing that.
Right. And even when, like you and I were talking about this too recently, where we used to have a really good habit of going to bed early and then taking that time to be with ourselves, check in to see who's in the room, like no music, no other distractions.
Right.
It's just you. And Maggie and I were just talking about this, how we really need to get back to that, to sitting and just being with ourselves and, thinking over the day or whatever, like putting our own pieces together in the time that we allot for ourselves to have that quiet reflection time. And a lot of times that's where I do my best, putting together of stuff. But lately I've been so exhausted, or staying up extra late and then not feeling like I have the energy to tap in or to just even lay there awake when my eyes want to close.
Right. I think we've all been so put to task this summer. There's been so many nights, so many weeks that Temple and I are on Zoom like this until 1 a.m, trying to get a mission done, that we've been so caught up in the action, and so much has been asked of all of us in terms of action, that this stillness has been lost. And Temple made such a good point. So much of the magic happens in the stillness. So much of the best information and energy we get happens when we let ourselves just sit and listen for a little while. And I almost forgot how that felt, because it's been so long since I've had the energy to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just thinking back to like the last time that I was able to do that. And that's when, oddly enough, Maggie, that's when I had that message about the whole guide thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something that was really important. And had I not been in that space of stillness that night to hear that,
Right.
So no, I'm really glad that she brought that through. It's nice that what I really like about what we do is that we each have our own experiences. Like we have a topic, but we each have our own experiences of how we handle the topic, which is good because everybody is different and they can either see things, and how I do it, or see things and how you do it, or like a little both. But I love it when the other beings come in there and they're like, and this is the third thing, that is really good to keep it. I love that. I think that's great that everybody is all on the same page and we're all trying to get the information out there so that you're able to use it in the way that you need to use it.
Absolutely.
To further yourself. And that's really the most important.
And I personally hope, I hope this for Temple too, but I don't want to speak for her. I hope that we can get back into more of our channeling mode in the upcoming Wednesdays with Roz. Over the summer, I know we didn't channel all of that much because we were doing so much work in our other spheres. They had been asking so much of us that channeling was something that was hard to muster the energy for a lot of those weeks. But I'm feeling really great about getting back into it. So those of you who prefer hearing the channeled beings talk over hearing me talk, you can tune in and you'll probably hear them a bit more than me in the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get back into the flow of kind of how we bring the beings in to give their opinions. Like, I think tonight was a really good start for that. And I'm excited to move forward with it, especially now that we're there, like we're starting this new chapter ourselves. So there appears to be no questions. So I was like, Ra, I was like, why didn't you come through? Like, you said you were going to come through. And he's like, well, he's like, I didn't want to abruptly, something about like the power, the energy within which he was going to like bring the message through after he saw and like analyzed the message of the viewer, or the energy of the viewers, and like what was all happening. He's like, I think this is much more appropriate for the energy of tonight. So it was really, it's really cute. I think had there been more like the other night, we had a lot of discussions, or the last one, we had a lot of discussions. Then I think Ra is more like, yes, like, let's do it. But tonight was just like a really nice, comfortable ending, to this phase that we're all going on, where it's giving us time to sit and think, and how we want to weave our own fate and have our own introspection of what that all entails to us. And so I think it's a really great way to end. Do we want to end with any blessings? I feel like I have a blessing.
Sure.
So
let's end with a quick blessing. Maybe Ra can send his energy through a little bit.
That would be good. Yeah, that would be good.
You want to start off?
I'll start off, sure. Hekete hele genete upuhut gerepe shekete enek dele ebe ehle muhush kupole ekemet ele ejet ukulo onot namoete muule etene eskapahotiai na ala ki initiatia hala na wa utu buhushu kumono ni eshete genete ebe ele ku umu lu ushukoto male ekenehesete tu ala ete tu nala ete tu nala ete kahata ala suhutubu kumo oshokotolo ma ala ete esketana lohoto shokomohomoya ma ala ekete enesete butu hupuku male eskete nale ete. Namaste.
Uru akala hohaya la hulo ohata muhote le ohotomaya la halu ulohana ikayu hoto kishi hato miani le eshahala waiho no mihi hota kishai si ito yohoto koto ikola hasha kihota paiti la hono makita koto koyayata la hoto kila ohoto ihata kushuto mahata kiyosata mahata kiata sahiata meyanasata. Namaste.
Namaste. All right, blessings, everybody. And thank you so much for tuning in. And we will see you not next week because we take a week off, but we will see you the week after. So join us again for Wednesdays with Ra. And this time I will get the thing up sooner. It's been really busy around here. And then all of a sudden it was like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. And I was like, oh my goodness, I never even put the thing up. And I also have, don't let me forget, Minka, I have to change the episode thing as well. So we have concurrent episodes. All right, you guys. Much